All right, we're live. I don't even know what episode we're on of the Art of Hunting podcast. It doesn't matter. We're just rolling now, man. But no, welcome to the Art of Hunting podcast. We've got our very special, they're all special, but this one's very special because he's an in-person guest. Andrew Maxwell from the Southern Outdoorsmen Podcast.
Yes, sir.
And what other podcasts?
Southern Waters Fishing. We produced that one. And then we got a podcast network with Gun Dog It Yourself, Birdshot Podcast, Field by the Outdoors, a whole bunch of them.
A bunch of them. He's an OG in the podcast world, so we were kind of talking about that before we got on. But so we've got the whole family here, and you guys are in Boone for vacation.
Yep, that's right. Come up here every year. It's one of our favorite places in the whole world. Tiffany's still trying to get me to move up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the wife and kid over here. You might hear some baby sounds on
That's
the
all
podcast.
right. That's all right. We were talking before. So how old's Piper? 3 months?
Yep.
Is that right?
Turned 3 months 2 days ago.
Okay. So Rhett is 7, Brooklyn's 3. So we've had all of the things happening. Brooklyn is riding her bike through my studio when I'm trying to paint and, all that kind of stuff. So there's nothing we haven't seen here. So we're very kid friendly around here.
She's super fun. I'm trying to get Tiff to go like trout fishing or something with her. You know, get her in like a little wrap and we'll be good to go. So I don't know. We went and scouted a stream like 2 days ago. We might go hit it up. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's fun, man. She's just starting to make all the like sounds where she's like cooing and laughing and all this stuff. And it's awesome. It really is. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, and you guys always come up here on vacation, like every summer, right?
Yeah. Every summer it's like we have a family reunion on Tiffany's side up here. And so we all come from, wherever we live. We got people in Texas, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, and everyone kind of comes together in this one spot. She has a cabin. Her grandmother has a cabin that's been in their family for 150 years.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. And we come up here and we stay there and do our big family reunion. And I was telling you earlier, it's like a nice break from being in Alabama.
Yeah.
Because it's like at home, it's been like 98 degrees all week. And then we left and came up here and the high was like 72.
Yep.
And it's just like, man, it's the best.
Yeah, that is the thing, man. And so when Zach moved here, it was like December and it rained and was foggy for like 2 weeks straight. Like just it can get kind of nasty in the wintertime, but man, in the summer it's like heaven on earth. And that's why people come to visit Boone is the summer weather.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
How often y'all get snow up here?
Well, this year was pretty light. I bought a blade for my tractor out here and never used it the entire year. So we didn't have anything.
But enough snow that you bought a blade for your tractor.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it goes. We got a ton of snow the year before, so I bought a blade and then it's just sitting there. But no, we probably I bet we get 7 or 8 snows a winter and 1 or 2 of them will be big ones, like 8-10 inches.
Really? Not
big compared to like a lot of the Western states, but yeah, we'll get plenty.
Okay. We were talking about doing at some point in the future, like a hunt where we're doing snow tracking.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering exactly how far north we have to go to do that. Because I mean, we could go up to like the Northeast and do it, but we know some guys up there that are really successful doing that. And it just looks fun.
Yeah.
Like you cut like a buck track and you just follow it until you find the deer.
That would be awesome.
I mean, that's like the most pure kind of like hunting, just like woodsmanship.
Yeah.
And hearing them talk about it, it sounds super fun. So I don't know. We might try it sometime.
That would be cool. I probably wouldn't recommend it here. You'd have to time it right. But like some of those northern states like Pennsylvania and New York and all them, I bet there's some.
That'd be the problem, getting a reliable snow.
Yeah.
Man, I was looking at some old pictures the other day on my phone, like, where your phone will do like memories or whatever. And the last time we got a really big snow in central Alabama was, I think, like 2017 or something like that. And we got like a big snow, and a big snow for us, it was like 4 inches.
Yeah.
But it all stuck. And it was like 4 inches of powder. And man, like Tiffany was stranded somewhere and I couldn't get to her. So I was like, well, I'm going hunting, because I haven't in deer season. And man, we went out there and we tried to do the whole snow tracking thing. And we get snow like so rarely in Alabama that when it snows, the deer like shut down.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was hard to find a single track because they don't want to move. They're
Yeah.
like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Pretty much just like the people, you know, like pretty much just like, because the entire town shut down, you know, there's no milk or bread in the stores.
Yeah.
Like, it's mass panic.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the deer do that too.
No, we have a little bit of that. A lot of people are kind of used to the snow. And in the Midwest, like we drove in snow all the time. But yeah, there's definitely like some college kids that are not used to the snow and all that. The thing that people do around here, and I've got a buddy that has a big landscaping company and they do snow removal and plow and stuff, but everybody's driveway is on an incline. So they'll park their car in the road at the bottom of the hill. And I bet the amount of times that like there's a, you know, Prius parked at the bottom of the hill, like in the road. I can't imagine those guys. It probably drives them nuts to like have to swerve around the car and keep plowing snow.
We had something in 2014. Everyone calls it the snowpocalypse in Central Alabama. Anybody from Central Alabama knows exactly what I'm talking about right now. Is a snowpocalypse because they thought it was going to like, I think they thought it was going to be like a dusting or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like freezing snow, like for, I don't know, like 2 or 3 inches of snow. And it froze on the roads. And it was like a apocalypse. It really was. Like there was cars in the ditches, like flipped over, like people walking up and down the interstates, like people sleeping at the office. Like, dude, it was like a complete disaster. Like you can go look at pictures. It looks like The Walking Dead or something. I mean, it was crazy.
Well, yeah. And people in the South, like, especially, you know, we're in the mountains, so we get some snow, but you go 45 minutes off the mountain and like they don't get it. They don't get snow.
Yeah.
They don't have the trucks or the salt or anything like in place to really handle that.
Yeah.
So,
that's another thing. That's another reason I was wondering about it. Cause you're so high up here, like in this area, but really all up and down the Appalachian Mountains that I guess at the higher elevations, you get more snow. And we really want to do a hunt in this kind of terrain. Like we got some friends in Virginia and West Virginia we might go do something with, but hunting like actual mountains like this. Cause the Appalachian Mountains end in Alabama, you know, and so kind of the northeast corner of Alabama is like the where it stops. Yeah. And we've hunted some stuff up there in the past, and that's like, those are our mountain hunts, you know. But dude, you come up here and it's just like, yeah, that wasn't a mountain hunt. It's like, no, we're hunting like foothills, like ridges. This is what people up here would call like a ridge or a hill. Yeah. You know, and for us, we're like, oh, it's a mountain, you know?
Well, I remember like hearing some of the early Primos turkey hunt days, like guys in the deep South would be like, yeah, that ridge up there. And it's like 4 feet elevation change in the swamp. And they're talking about that as like a ridge.
Yeah, that's a fun thing about interviewing deer hunters around the country because we get exposed to a lot of that. Like pretty much anybody we talk to in Arkansas who hunts that southeast Arkansas, like river bottom type stuff, that's what they talk about. A ridge is this big. Yeah. You know, and it's literally 2 feet, but that's what they call a ridge. And so they'll use like LiDAR maps and stuff to find a 2 foot elevation gain, but it makes this huge difference for them because there's something else growing on top of that ridge because it's just different enough that, you know, on the bottom it's this kind of oak, and then on this 2 foot incline,
that's crazy.
It's like a nut all oak or something, or an overcup oak. Some other kind of oak tree grows up here, and the deer are attracted to it. Yeah. So it's interesting, man. Like going from that to here. Yeah. You know, because we're trying to do, like we were talking before we got started about starting videos back up and trying to film stuff. And we're trying to do like a tour of the South over the next couple of years. Yeah. And we're going to hunt, like this year, we're going to hunt Bama, Georgia, Arkansas, Mississippi, maybe Tennessee. Yeah. And then next year we'll hunt like other states, like Louisiana.
You should come here, man.
We should.
It'd be awesome, dude.
Kind of tempted. That's what I'm saying. Like next year we're looking at like, where can we go do a mountain hunt, you know? And get some like actual serious terrain in, because one thing that's cool about this kind of terrain is we interview a lot of guys who are successful in the mountains. We've interviewed people from North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Arkansas. And they all hunt mountains. They're, you know, a little bit different from place to place, but they're all also kind of the same. And what always holds true is the terrain. Like that terrain influences the deer so much that you have to, we call it like trust the terrain. And even on a smaller scale in Alabama and our foothills, it still holds true where if you have really aggressive terrain, the deer have to use it in a certain way. They might not have to, but they're greatly, greatly encouraged to. And so then you come up to a place like this and you go driving around in the mountains. And I mean, it is like that off the side of the road. You're like, okay, like we can do something with this.
Yeah.
Because at first we were driving around, me and Tiff were driving around here. And I was like, I don't even know how I'd begin to hunt this. Because it's just like, all of it's like a cliff covered with rhododendron, like all of it. And then we were driving and I was like, you know what? Actually, I think I do know how I'd hunt this. Because I started looking at the topo map. We were driving around and I had OnX on the CarPlay thing.
Oh, driving out here?
Oh, yeah, that's the best. Yeah. And so I was looking at it. I'm like, oh, there's a little bench up there. Yep. Here's a shelf right here. That's what so-and-so talked about. And so my mind is like spinning with this stuff, dude. So
we had a big deer that showed up at the end of the year right here. So we have 8 acres right here. And I put a buddy stand up to take Rhett, just kind of total jacking around deer stand, place he could see some deer and we could go, it'd be easy. But we had a big deer show up and I didn't get him killed in bow season, but we went and scouted like in February when we were shed hunting and I was following trails and all that kind of stuff. And just like you're talking about, like the deer are going to bed here. You could just see it. And I like scouting in January, February when all the leaves are off, the trails are beat down.
Oh yeah.
But you could totally tell how they use the terrain off of here.
What's a big deer like for you guys up here?
This one here, actually, here's a shed right here.
This right.
That one here, he's got a nice chocolate rack.
Dang.
And I mean, that is a big old deer. I'll have to show you pictures. He had the suede back pot belly. I mean, he's like 6.5.
Mass carries all the way out.
Deer.
Yeah.
But I scored him. His right side has 4 points, so he's a 9-pointer. Just got that little kicker, but he's a 140-inch deer.
Yeah.
I gave him a 16-inch spread, I think.
Yeah. That's what I'm
No, he's a 140-inch deer. Now that's a big deer. There was a 168 killed just up the road here earlier. But man, a deer like that's like a 200-inch deer in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that deer. Everybody knows have you seen the big non-typical? Everybody knows that deer. And he's 170. So
that's awesome. I always wondered about that because I kind of tend to assume that mountainous places like this have a low deer density, but honestly driving around like just around Boone, like the town of Boone, I see a lot of deer.
It's crazy high. Yeah,
really
crazy high. I mean, we'll drive here, if you drive this road at sunset, you'll see 10, 15 between here and 421.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd sit in this buddy stand and see 15, 20 deer in a night.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's really high, but then you look and it's like, it's nothing but rhododendron. Like, what do these deer eat? And we were feeding corn late into the winter, like after season through. And dude, you look out the window and there'd be 20, 25 deer feeding down there. There's a lot of deer.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Like there's not like a lot of public like right here around town. A lot of it seems to be like Christmas tree farms. Yeah. Like private. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, what do they eat? Yeah. But one thing that I was talking to Tiffany about, every year when we come up here, it's so lush up in the mountains. Yeah. Like if you've got like an embankment that's getting some sun, it is just like exploding with flowers and all kinds of stuff. There's freaking apple trees all over the place. Like it's just different. So I guess there's like a lot of native forage, but I thought the same thing with all that rhododendron, man. Yeah, like it is crazy how thick it is. Yeah. And there's a lot of it. Yeah. Like a ton, like a whole mountainside is that. And like it's just cool talking to different guys who are successful in areas like this. I don't think we've interviewed anybody from like right here, but pretty close to here. And then coming up here and actually seeing what it looks like in person, I'm like, I have a whole new respect for you being able to kill a mature buck in here every year or every other year.
Yep. I've got some buddies. I've got guys that do it on a regular basis, and it really is, it's tough because baiting is a hard part of it. Like you're really not going to hunt the oaks and all that kind of stuff that much. The guys that do it regular put a ton of bait out. And then when they get a deer that they want to kill, they kind of hone in on that one. Yeah. So, but man, it really is like January, February. It's hard because there's not a lot for them to eat, really. Yeah, it's pretty stripped bare.
We talked to some guys who do it in early season. I can't remember. I don't think they're in I guess they are in North Carolina. I can't remember what part they're in though. But their whole thing is they're targeting deer coming down off the mountains onto that private.
Yep.
And they're hunting the public. And basically their goal is to find something in the bottom that the deer are going to be feeding on. And it could be like a cattle pasture, something green down there, because all these mountains around here are closed canopy forest. There's really nothing for them in there. So they got to travel to go eat. And they might find like a hot oak tree, coming down a finger ridge, where this buck is bedded way up here on some little spur up against a rock bluff or something. And halfway down this finger ridge, there's an oak. And then at the bottom of it, there's some kind of field or something that he's going to eat at. Mm-hmm. And they get in there and they catch him in between.
Yep.
And that's like, again, that's just like some premier woodsmanship. Like, you got to really know what you're looking for to do that. But they do it consistently. And they're like the only guys that we've talked to, I think, that do it in early season. Yeah. Pretty much everybody else is hunting like terrain features and the edges of these rhododendron and mountain laurel thickets in the rut with a rifle, and that's how they're having success. Yep. So that's probably when we would come up. I don't know. Yeah. We're going to try to time it probably with a rut hunt.
A lot of guys hunt muzzleloader too. Muzzleloader's a big one up here because it comes in before rifle. Mm-hmm. So a lot of guys will do really well during muzzleloader season up here.
Yeah.
But
well, now also is y'all's rut like kind of early November?
Yeah, it's pretty typical
when it's like supposed to be.
Yeah, it's a little bit later, I would feel like. And again, like there's a really high deer density, 100%. We don't have a good buck to doe ratio. That's going to be out of whack because there's still a lot of like brown it's down type, which is fine. But there's so the rut isn't that like I go back to Illinois to deer hunt during the rut because it's the intense, a lot of competition. First 2 weeks in November, I wouldn't miss in Illinois. Mm-hmm. I feel like it starts getting heated up about Thanksgiving around here. Okay. And that's also when rifle season opens. So maybe that I'm sure that has a part of it to do, like more guys do well during rifle. Mm-hmm. But that muzzleloader and the opening day of rifle season is when a lot of bucks get shot.
Okay, interesting. Because in Alabama, it's like all over the place for us. Yeah, we got January rut, February rut, December rut. Like just depending on where you're at, so you can kind of like chase it, around the state, and you can hunt rutting deer from early November to February 10th.
That's
Alabama.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's nice because it gives us flexibility too. Because I can go anywhere. I can go this year. We're going to go to Arkansas in November, and we're going to hunt mid-November in Arkansas for the rifle opener. And we're going to be hunting rutting deer. And pretty much from that point on until February, I'm going to be hunting rutting deer somewhere.
That's crazy.
We're going to hit the rut there. We're going to go somewhere in Alabama and hit a mid-December rut. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to go somewhere and hit an early January rut, then a mid-January rut. And if we're not burned out at that point, we'll go somewhere for a February rut, down to South Alabama. Yeah. Where it's February 10th.
How far away are these like pockets of, and is it consistently like, hey, this county, they rut in February? It's that dialed in.
Big time. Well, it can even be, there's a certain place in Alabama that I've hunted before. And I try to not give too many details because you could figure out where it is pretty easily. Mm-hmm. But this place is not very big, and it has a November rut. Like I'm talking, I've had big mature bucks chase does by me on like November 12th, November 14th in that area. And that's about as early as it gets in Alabama. About 3 miles down the road, there's another place I've hunted where it is mid-January, straight up mid-January rut. And they're very distinct. There's like obviously there's going to be some overlap, but it can be that close. I mean, literally right down the road. And it's consistent every year. Like, that if you go to X place on these dates, they're going to be rutting. And, depending on where you live in the state, I live kind of in the central part of the state. I'm never more than 2 hours away from hard rutting deer at some point in the season. I can drive north, south, whatever, and I can go get on rutting deer within 2 hours of my house.
That's crazy.
I mean, like the whole year.
So were you born and raised in Alabama?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm originally from the Birmingham area, a town called Helena. Everyone else in the country pronounces it Helena. Yeah. But not in Alabama, baby. we pronounce it Helena. So, I grew up hunting around there on hunting clubs and stuff, which is like a really southern thing. You'll probably have hunting clubs in North Carolina, but it'd just be like a lease, a couple thousand acres with like 15 to 40 guys on it, depending on how big the club is and how expensive it is.
Yeah.
And grew up hunting that, and then hunted public land thereafter.
Okay.
For like, since I was a kid, but exclusively since I was like 16.
Yeah.
So
my buddy Jared, his dad, they live in Snellville, north of Atlanta, and they have an avenue. We were asking directions. He's like, yeah, you take a right on Ponce de Leon Avenue. And I'm like, Ponce de Leon? It's like, you mean Ponce de Leon, like the Spanish or French explorer? Like, it's not Ponce de Leon.
Ponce de Leon.
It's Ponce de Leon around here. I was like, I'm pretty sure that guy was like a Spanish explorer.
I love the South, man.
It
That's
wasn't
awesome.
Ponce de Leon.
That's fantastic.
But so how did tell me about the podcast, like the early days of the podcast. Like how did that come about?
I don't even know sometimes. Like it feels like I don't know, man.
How old were you when it started?
I was 19 probably.
Dude, okay.
Or maybe I was 20. It was before I could legally drink. I know that.
Yeah.
So like my backstory, I started hunting when I was a kid with my dad and grandfather. Did a lot of squirrel hunting. They grew up in Walker County, Alabama, so around Cordova, if people know where that is, Jasper, Cordova area. And even today, there's not like a ton of deer in that part of Alabama, but especially back in like the 70s, it was kind of like the classic thing you hear. If you found a deer track, it was like a big deal. You went and told everyone. So they were all small game hunters. They hunted dove, rabbit, squirrel, whatever. They had Weimaraners. They hunted quail. And when I was born, I guess my dad just wanted to get into deer hunting because they'd never really done it before. He'd never killed a deer. My grandfather never killed a deer. So we joined some hunting clubs and like, man, God bless them. They were just not good at deer hunting. Like they just weren't, man. We did a lot of squirrel and stuff. We could go put a hurting on some squirrels, but the deer hunting we just struggled with. And we hunted, throughout my entire childhood, and I killed a couple deer. They both killed their first deer. I killed my first deer. It was great. And then when I was 14, my dad passed away suddenly. So I didn't really have a place to go after that. Mm-hmm. Well, thankfully, I had one of my best friends at the time. I think I was in like 7th grade or no, I was in like 9th grade. I was a freshman in high school. And one of my best friends I'd been hunting with a little bit. And his dad is like a great deer hunter, a really great, just an all around woodsman. And they kind of took me under their wing and they would like take me to their hunting club, which was, if again, given some Alabama geography here, but it's right next to Taney Hill State Park. And it was just great hunting. It was like all upland hardwoods. It was on the end of Shades Mountain. So it was like kind of mountainous hunting. And I killed a bunch of deer out there, killed like my first like good buck out there. And I had Mr. Benny, his dad, to kind of teach me the ropes. Mm-hmm. Well, I was still limited to only going with them like whenever I got invited, basically, which I was always welcome. But, I was like 16. I was like ready to roll. Yeah. I had a driver's license and an itchy trigger Blazer, baby. Yeah. I was ready to go. And so we had some local WMAs and I started going out to those local WMAs. And so basically I was like that 16-year-old who didn't know what he was doing. I mean, like did not know what he was doing at all. It was pretty intimidating, like going out there and trying to figure it out on my own. Yeah. And Jacob was kind of the same way. His dad didn't hunt. His uncles got him into hunting, and his uncle has like a 90-acre farm in Bibb County, which we started doing some videos with. We're doing like habitat work out there right now, doing some like native prairie stuff. And but Jacob back then, his uncle was like a very big, like he's going to manage for like trophy deer. And for Jacob, again, as being a teenager, he's kind of bloodthirsty. He's not wanting to wait for that 5.5-year-old buck. So, he lived local to the WMA too. So he started going out there some and he kind of cut his teeth doing the same thing. And we eventually met and we just started hunting together a whole bunch. And at that same time, we were listening to Wired to Hunt a lot. Oh, yeah. Because Wired to Hunt, he'd been around for a couple of years already, but he was like pretty much the only hunting podcast that we were aware of. Mm-hmm. And it was great. But he's talking to dudes in Michigan and Iowa and Wisconsin, and it was really, really good content. But we were like, man, like, I just don't even know what they're talking about. Because they're talking about like hunting a pinch point, funnels in the rut. And they're talking in context of like a cornfield or something, or like a bean field. And meanwhile, I'm looking at 400 acres of pine trees. And I'm like,
Yep.
like, I don't know what to do with
It's
this.
way different.
Yeah. And so we were talking about it one day with some buddies of ours, and they were like, why don't y'all just start a podcast? And like, I had been doing a little bit of writing at the time for like Alabama Outdoor News and Georgia Outdoor News, because this is the time where I'm like going into college and I'm like trying to figure out what I want to do. And I'm like, I want to be an outdoor writer. That sounds fun. You know, like that's what my passion is. I want to try to do that. And so I was writing for those, and I couldn't get into like Field and Stream or something like that, like a premium print. Because first of all, I had no business being in like Field and Stream at that time, like at all. But I'm like, I just need to like keep going and publishing stuff and like build a portfolio or whatever. So anything that I wasn't selling to AON or GON, I was going to go put on my own website. And so in 2017, I bought the SouthernOutdoorsmen.com. And so I was already doing that. And then by the time people were like, y'all should just start a podcast for like Southern people, I was like, okay, let's do it. And it was early 2018. And I was trying to get Jacob to do it with me. And he didn't want to do it at first, like at all. I was like, dude, we could do it for real. And eventually, if you know Jacob, like at first when you tell him about something, he's going to be like, no, that's stupid. Like he's not going to listen. But if you get him fired up about it, like you'll never hear the end of it. He's going to take it and he's going to run. We call it going full Jacob with it. Like he's going to go full Jacob, dude. And so that's what happened. So we bought like a $30 microphone off Amazon, one of those like Yeti snowballs, you know, like USB microphone. And I mean, dude, just started from there. I mean, literally just started the podcast, and our goal was just to like interview people who were good deer hunters for our area. And so we already knew a couple people who we were interested in.
Yeah.
We started interviewing them and kind of got our feet up under us. And I don't know why we were so committed to it at first. Cause like we were never like, of course, when we first started, we're like, man, what if we could like do this? Like that was in the back of your mind, but we weren't talking about it like we're going to do this, you know? And we just kind of started doing it as like a passion thing. And then for whatever reason, we were like so committed, we never missed a Monday. So we picked Monday as our day that we're going to drop them.
Yep.
Still never missed a Monday. We're 490 episodes in.
Dang, man.
Never missed one. And then, you know, I think it was like year 3 of the podcast. I think I was still in college. Jacob dropped out of college and he got a sales job.
Okay.
And we went to ATA because we were like, we should probably go to ATA and like cover some stuff. Because we were like really, really into like the mobile hunting stuff. And we're like, let's go see all the new gear and film it and put it on YouTube or whatever. And we just went and talked to all these people who were like in the hunting industry that week. And Jacob was living in Nashville at the time, and I was living in Auburn, Alabama. And we drove back to Nashville, and I was getting my truck at his apartment. And we like sat there and talked for like 3 hours after we got back from ATA. And I was like, dude, I think we could like actually do this. Like for real, we could do this. If we look at this as a business and like figure out how to monetize it and actually do it as a business. And like that conversation wasn't like the turning point, but that was like the first time that at least I realized like we could do this for real. And ever since that point, we kind of started working towards that goal. And like, here we are like 5 years later, dude. It's been crazy. Like, I can't believe it's been 5 years and 490 episodes, but like we've come a long ways from just not even from just the interview standpoint, but also like the business standpoint of like how to actually run a business and make this a business and also have it keep its integrity. Yep. Because that was one thing that we were really worried about in the hunting industry. Like, I mean, I'm sure, you know, like the hunting industry.
I've seen it, man.
It's pretty trashy. Like, I'm not going to lie. It is. Yeah. And so we're like trying to avoid that, you know, like how do we monetize and not like sell our soul per se? And it took us a long time to figure that out, but we didn't even monetize for like 3.5 years. Yeah. Like nothing. And then when we did monetize, we were trying to figure out how to do it tastefully, you know, where we could keep control of everything we do. Yep. And it took a really long time, but like we accomplished that. We have no bars on anything. We can do whatever we want. And we got good partners we can work with, and we figured out how to have our cake and eat it too in that regard. Yeah. So it's been a while.
And that's good, man, because that is the hard thing, man. And by monetizing, I'm assuming you're talking about sponsors.
Yeah, sponsors, but also, I mean, monetizing could be anything. It could be selling merchandise, which we're absolutely horrible at doing. We're so bad, man. We were at the Mobile Hunters Expo 2 weeks ago, and everyone's like, are y'all already out of hats? I'm like, we ran out of hats 4 months ago. I just didn't order anymore.
Dude, our crew, they've been hounding me on apparel, and we're doing it. We're in the final stages of getting it approved, but you know, there's certain things like we've actually gotten really good and streamlined on all our print sales and everything, but the merch stuff, like the hats and t-shirts and stuff, I'm bad about it too.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But yeah, even the sponsor thing too. The sponsor thing is kind of hard because, I mean, there's people who there are people who like give you money to use a product that you've never used, that you don't believe in.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe the company itself is like unethical. Like maybe they got some poachers on their pro staff.
Yeah.
Like straight up. They got some poachers on their pro staff. Like we wanted to avoid working with people like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that just, if you're going to do that, and this is like for anybody who maybe wants to start their own thing, if you want to do that, you're going to have to like build your platform to a point where you can like go to people and actually have value for them, you know? And so you can pick who you work with, because all of our partners, every single one of them are people that we've been using since before we had a podcast, if they existed back then, you know, like First Light, I've been using them since like 2017. Onyx, I remember when Onyx wasn't even an app yet, and I was like waiting for them when they first made the app. They didn't even have Alabama for their property layers. Okay. And I was like waiting for them to make Alabama, because I'm like, oh, this could be a game changer. You know? Yeah. So that's how long I've been using OnX, and they're like our biggest partner. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just like we just wanted to grow it to a point where we could choose who we worked with, you know, and be purposeful about it. And it's paid off, you know. We don't make as much money as we could. Yeah. But it's worth it.
Well, that's cool though, man, because I mean, you're doing it I don't know, you're not doing anything through gritted teeth. Like, you're doing it tastefully. It's natural. You want to use that stuff. But, you know, I've seen there's plenty of things in the outdoor industry that make me want to throw up in my mouth, especially when it comes to like marketing and advertising and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you do get some people. And I feel like when camera gear got accessible to everyone, you guys want to, I'm going to start my own TV show, and me and my wife, we're going to be the next Lee and Tiffany, and will you sponsor us? And they haven't done anything yet. They just want money to start. And it's just like, ugh. But it's cool you guys did it. I mean, dude, 3.5 years is a long time. That's a long side hustle.
Oh, you should ask Tiffany about that.
Side hustle.
And she's like, hey. She's sitting over here. She's like,
she got a look on your her face like, oh yeah,
because Tiffany's been through all of it, man. I've been with her for 10 years. Yeah, and so she's seen the podcast, you know, from the very, very start, when like everyone was like, "You're starting a podcast, huh?" You know, like that kind of thing. To like now what it is, yeah, man. It got to a point where, because I mean, it's a big commit. I mean, you got a podcast now, you know. Yeah. But back then, it was like, gosh, man. That Sunday or the Monday due date, we were so committed to it that, like, with us being procrastinators and being unorganized and honestly being like, you know, like kind of stupid, like 21-year-olds or whatever, there was a lot, and I mean a lot of nights where we were recording at like 9:45 p.m. on Sunday. Yeah. And we record a freaking 2-hour podcast, and then I'm sitting there till 2:00 in the morning editing it. Yeah. And then as soon as I'm done, I just post it because it's Monday morning. Yeah. Like, there was a lot of days like that, like a whole bunch of days like that. And ironically, some of our really good episodes from back in the day came from that, where, I don't know, we just like threw something together and it ended up being like really good. Yeah. You know? But yeah, there's a lot of that. And, you know, Tiffany's put up with a lot with it.
We've done it. We do every Tuesday, and I've seen the value of like doing consistency over time. That's how you get really good at something, rather than just, you know, just winging it. Like, I mean, I get that all the time. Creating art, like, I don't wait till I'm inspired. Like, I can't wait till I'm inspired to do something. I got to show up and count on the inspiration coming. And I'm sure there were probably a lot of episodes where you're like, I got nothing. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't really care. We just have to get an episode out. And you just do it anyway.
Gosh, dude.
Sometimes those are your best ones.
You want to talk about a rabbit hole we could go down. Yeah.
Let's go down it.
There's a lot. I mean, a lot of stuff like that. I mean, yeah, we got the podcast network now. Yeah. We're bringing other people in, like high quality shows. We're bringing them in and we're helping them. Cause also we got, like I mentioned earlier, Nick Adair from Gundog It Yourself. He's like us. He started like a year after us. We helped him start his podcast. He's a full-time podcaster now.
Okay.
And he's got a really successful show in the upland kind of gun dog space. And it's me and Jacob along with him, and we take shows in and we help them grow, and we get a lot of established show. But there's a couple guys who we're working with who don't have shows yet, who are just starting, and we'll be giving them advice. And I had someone ask, like, how often should we post? And I was like, you could do bi-weekly if you want. I'd recommend doing weekly, but if you're not going to make it part of your routine and stick on that schedule, don't even try. Like, for real, don't even buy the gear. Don't even worry about trying to set it up. If you're not going to make it part of your routine and be committed to it, don't even try.
Yep.
And like you said, you can't like wait on the inspiration to come to you. It's like working out in the morning. Like you can't, if you just work out when you feel like working out, like you're going to get fat probably. Like, like you got to do it even when you don't feel like doing it. And there can't be any excuse of why you're not doing it, you know, and even when you don't feel like it. And especially when you're publishing at like a cadence, like what we do, I mean, you can get really burned out. And me and Jacob, we'll do something like we had a big talk about it a couple weeks ago with Nick. We were all talking about like when you produce content this much on something that you love to do so much, you kind of like lose a little bit of fire. You can get burned out. Yeah. And so we call it like getting the soul back or whatever. Like we'll just go do something fun. It's like, let's leave the cameras. Let's not do anything. Let's go scout a new place. Let's go hunt somewhere and not even worry about filming it or whatever, or doing something with it. Like, let's go and remember like why we like doing this, you know? And that's been a big part of it. I mean, you have to like be intentional about that kind of thing too. Yeah. To, I don't know, maintain like that inspiration or whatever. Cause I could quit doing the podcast and just hunt and I'd be perfectly happy, you know? Yeah. But it's like when you're doing both and I can't go hunting because of the podcast. Yeah. That's when it becomes a grind. And I'm like, do I really like doing this that much? Like, you know, and you got to like figure out why you like doing it again, which also on that note, a big thing for me in that regard was the Mobile Hunters Expo in Chattanooga, where dude, it was just like our people were there. I mean, it was awesome. Yeah. I mean, I was there all day Saturday and I hardly even got to go take a pee break. I was talking to people all day about deer hunting and it was like, okay, this is fun. Yeah. Like this is why we do it. These are like our people. Everyone's fired up. Everyone's passionate. And it's just like, it's like food for the soul. That's what I said on the podcast the other day. Got a bunch of reactions out of it. It's like food for the soul, man. When you get to go hang out with people like that who are like-minded and just get to go have a good time, it kind of relights that fire underneath you. So I'm sure you probably deal with some of the same stuff. Yeah, I mean, we're totally with the creative side. You know, it's kind of so I've worked in the outdoor industry from day one. I started at the Turkey Federation. We talked about that on you guys' podcast, but man, I don't want to turn hunting into work. And man, it's so hard because you do have to remember why you're doing it. And having kids now helps a lot because I'll take Rhett and like, he's all wide eyed, you know, we were sitting there and, a doe came out. We were sitting down here at the end and he started getting all, you know, and I was like, yeah, you're right, dude. He's like, yeah, I'm just excited, you know, and you start doing stuff like that and you realize why you do it. But, man, I'm anymore hunting needs to be my refuge and not a source of work. Yeah. And even when I was doing a lot of print advertising and working a lot with Winchester and Browning, I would take my whole office to Illinois with me. I'd be packing up hard drives and iMacs and all kinds of crap and working there. And now I'm like, man, that's got to be a refuge. That's got to be an untouchable place that I used to like get my soul back. Yeah, dude, get the soul back, man. Yeah, there's really something to it. I mean, it really can't be overstated. I mean, you gotta like make time for that kind of thing, and that's one reason we talked about our YouTube channel. We quit doing YouTube videos. Pretty much quit. Outside of like if there's something just like too easy, like a review on like my backpack or something. Yeah, because we had people asking about it. Like we do that, but hunts and stuff, we quit doing that in like 2018. Yeah. Because it was too much to do the podcast and that. It was just like a drag. And I felt like we weren't doing either one of them very good. Yep. And so we just stopped the videos and just focused on the podcast. I feel like we got really good at doing the podcast and figured out how to do it and how to replicate like a very high quality episode every single week. And I'm like, once this is kind of cruising and we really know what we're doing, we'll come back to the video.
Yep.
And so that's what we're doing.
Yep.
But even now, we're not going to do like the whole vlog, YouTube hunting thing. We're going to do like longer, like films, you know, where we're trying to capture like if we're going to go hunt a swamp in Alabama, like I want to capture like an Alabama swamp hunt and like the culture behind it. Just like what it's like to be in that camp. And I want like the tips or whatever that we talk about the podcast to come through as well. So like I want to get like a guest and have them on the hunt. And you know, it's like so-and-so talks about doing this in the swamp. Well, here he is in this video doing that. So you can listen on the podcast now, you can see it, but also it's more like, I don't want to say like lifestyle kind of stuff, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's more like meat eater-esque rather than more like a bone collector type thing. Nothing wrong with bone collector, like in like the, you know, highlight reel hunt, you know, pump you up. But I just want something that shows like the Southern culture. And so we're going to try to do that. But also because of that, it gives us more flexibility because I don't have to go through and like film every single thing I'm doing. And also there's hunts that we're just not going to film because maybe it's like such a specific kind of hunt in a specific kind of area that people are going to know where you're at. So we're like, we just won't film that one, you know, like, because we try to be really secretive about where we're going, you know, because we don't want to burn somebody's spot or whatever. So like there's certain hunts we got on the docket this fall where we're like, we're not gonna worry about filming that one, you know? But then there's other ones where we feel like we can hide it really well and kind of throw people off. We'll go film that one, you know? But I think I'm excited because I think it's gonna be fun to do, but it's not gonna be like overwhelming or anything like that. Because we did it with 2 hunts last year and it was a blast. It was really fun. And we got some great footage that we're sitting on right now. And I just have no time to edit, but it'll get done eventually. One of these years.
Since I've lived in the South, I've noticed that like the culture, the tradition, like there's a lot, it's like deep, you know, deep. And I can't help but think like that's one of the reasons why the Southern Outdoorsmen podcast has been so successful. It's just because like you guys have tapped into that. And your point earlier, like, man, it's different hunting 500 acres of planted pines with like a hardwood drainage through the middle of it than anywhere else. And you know, the hunt clubs, that's a big one down south. Rabbit dogs, squirrel dogs, dove season opener, like what?
Yeah, baby.
You know, and it's a different vibe, different element, you know?
Yeah, I think that's one reason that we made it the Southern Outdoorsmen, you know, it's the culture thing because it is so different and than like Illinois or something like that. Or Iowa or Wisconsin, or I mean, just like anywhere else, man. It's different. We have a different like tradition down here. Up there, they got like a 5-day gun season or whatever, or they got a muzzleloader season. Alabama's muzzleloader season is 5 days and it's Monday through Friday, so nobody hunts it. You know, like except for like retired guys, like nobody hunts muzzleloader in Alabama. Our gun season opens the 3rd Saturday in November and goes out on February 10th. You can just gun hunt for like, it feels like a whole year. I mean, you can gun hunt so much throughout really the whole South. All the states in the South are like that. So like, we don't have a bow hunting culture like the Midwest has. You know, like everybody in the Midwest bow hunts who's like a deer hunter. In the South, I mean, there's a lot of bow hunters, especially guys who are more like probably like your average podcast listener who are more of like your mobile hunter, like they're probably hunting out of a saddle or a lock on or something like that. A lot more of those people are bow hunting because they're just like so invested in whitetail hunting that they'll listen to a podcast, you know, try to get better at it. So they're going to be bow hunters. But if you go to a family reunion, you go to Thanksgiving dinner, all your cousins probably hunt. And they're probably all gun hunters. And they probably all hunt at a hunting club, you know, sitting in a shooting house, which is great. Like that's the culture, man. And there, like I said, there was nobody at the time, at least on like a big setting, who was promoting that or talking about it or whatever. There was like, you know, like Primos, I guess they did some stuff, but still it wasn't, they're hunting like the absolute best properties in the entire Southeast that they highly manage. Awesome. That's great. But there was nobody putting anything out for the 16-year-old who's going to go hunt the local WMA, who doesn't know the rules, doesn't know how to do it, doesn't know the etiquette.
Yeah.
So we wanted to produce something that would help that guy out, you know? And we got a big response from it because people are like, finally, like someone, it's relatable, you know? And because, I mean, me and Jacob, we do all that same stuff. And I think one reason that it's been so successful is at the end of the day, when we get Scott Seals on, Scott hunts the same management area as us. I've heard about Scott and his gang since I was a kid. They're out there killing 150-inch deer every year. Yeah. And we're not even seeing does. Yeah. We see like one spike a year or something, you know, like when I was a kid. We were terrible. But we hear about these guys who are killing these giant deer and they're real secretive or whatever. Yeah. So I wanted to meet those guys since before I had a podcast. I'm like, I want to figure out who this dude is and pick his brain. Yeah. And so we approached everything from that angle where we're just like trying to get better. You know, me and Jacob we're trying to ask these people questions because we want to know, you know? So we're like learning alongside the audience. And I think that's helped it a lot. I think that's made it more relatable, but I also think we get better content out of it because we don't ever assume anything. Yeah. Because I don't know. I don't know what these people are about to say. Yeah. I don't know how this guy's killing 140-inch deer in the mountains every single year. Like that seems crazy. Like that seems impossible to me. So I'm not coming in with any preconceived notions and I'm asking out of like a genuine place of curiosity. And I think that's why so many people have found it helpful. And that's what's made us grow to where we're at right now. Yeah. Well, I know I listen to podcasts like selfishly, like what can I learn here? What can I do? Yeah. And you were talking about like your backlog. You guys have done 490 episodes. Oh yeah. I've gotten to where I search podcasts for like, and I'll go back almost like a Google search in my podcasts on stuff. What do you feel like, I mean, obviously you've learned and grown a lot, but do you feel like your style of hunting has changed since you've been exposed? Because you have been exposed to like greatness, you know, in the whitetail world on your podcast. Do you feel like you've changed since you started? Oh yeah. I mean, I just feel like I've gotten better. Yeah. Like me and Jake were actually talking about this like last week, where we had a pretty good year last year. Between the two of us, we killed like a bunch of bucks, like mature bucks. I killed 2 mature bucks. I shot one little basket rag. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah. But so I killed 4 last year. I killed a doe. I killed that smaller buck in Georgia with my bow, a little 8-point in September, no, it was October. But pre-rut, I was like, hey, it's the 5th day of the hunt. I'm like, you getting it, you know? And then we killed a couple mature bucks in Alabama after that. Jacob killed 2 mature bucks in Bama. He killed one in Arkansas, Iowa. And we were talking about it. I'm like, I feel like we're kind of starting to come into our own a little bit. Like I feel a lot more confident than I used to. And part of that is just talking to all these guys. And like the biggest takeaway has been, you know, like woodsmanship. And that's what we kind of weave that into everything we do now. We kind of preach about it. Like you need to be able to go out there and understand what you're looking at. Like, read sign. Why is the sign there? Read the habitat, read the terrain, and all those things are like woodsmanship skills. Yep. And at the end of the day, the woodsmen are the guys who are doing really, really good. Yeah. And so I feel like we've just become better woodsmen over the years. And part of that is the podcast, but also part of that is just us progressing as hunters, like us spending more time in the woods and understanding what we're looking at and gaining more experience. So it's like a couple years ago, I would have walked into a spot and seen like a rub, you know, and I've been like, okay, shoot up the tree. Let's go. Where's my snake? Where's my tree? And then I'd stand there for 45 minutes and be like, should I get in this tree or that tree? And now I'm like, I have a much higher, like I know what I'm looking for now. Yeah. You know, because I've talked to all these different guys of like, hey, what kind of sign should I look for in this kind of area versus this kind of area? Yeah. If I'm in a really high deer density area, then the kind of sign I'm going to need to see to make myself get in a tree is different than if I'm in a really low deer density area. Yeah. If I'm hunting a place with really low deer density, then maybe that one rub is all I need. Yeah. You know? And so like being flexible and adaptable and stuff, like that's probably been the biggest change for me and probably Jacob too. Yeah. Is like, you got to be able to assess the situation for what it is, no matter where you're at. Are you guys hunting totally mobile now? Pretty much, yeah.
Do you feel like that's more of a hunting strategy thing, or just you've hunted WMAs a lot where you can't hang a ladder stand or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's
both.
definitely probably more the latter, but it is both.
Yeah.
Like I I'm in a hunting club this year, and we have one ladder stand that we're going to put out, but like I'm really just kind of putting it out
To gar hole your buddies.
to gar home my buddies.
Yeah.
Put them up so I can get downwind of them.
Yeah. Johnny, we're going to set you in the ladder stand.
Oh, yeah,
you just
baby.
be ready. Buddy.
Yeah, just be ready at any moment.
Yeah.
He's going to hear me about 30 minutes before dark back there. Boom!
He gets in there. There's no bow hanger, no nothing. He's got to hold his bow the whole time.
Yeah, I think it's also the strategy too, because when you're mobile, you can just it's like goes back to the adaptability thing. You can just get up and move.
Yeah.
You can just go to where you need to go, where you need to be.
Yep.
And it might be way off back in the woods, or we had a hunt last year on my hunting club. Actually, it was like this where I had a buddy of mine who's kind of newer, and I had my stepdad who's new.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of raining that day, and they don't have saddles or climbers or anything yet. So I was like, y'all just go get in these shooting houses, if a doe comes out, and let her have it. And I was like, where am I going to go? And I have my climber, and so I can go wherever I want. I can be mobile. And there's a road that goes down through this saddle. It's pine thickets all over the place. And there's a saddle in the ridge, and a road goes right smack through the middle of it. And on one side of the road is thick pines, like as tall as the ceiling, 10, 15-year-old pines, thick understory. On the other side of the road was thin pines that are probably like 20 some odd years old. Trees are about that big around, and they've got a decent understory, but there's tracks crossing the road. I'm like, well, I'm just going to hunt this. So I go 40 yards off the side of the road, climb up a tree, and I saw like 9 deer that morning. They didn't see any, but that's what I was telling them. I'm like, even though we're on a hunting club and you got these established spots, as soon as you get off the beaten path, like, dude, like those deer don't expect you to be in that pine tree 50 yards off the side of the road. And I passed a buck, dude. He was paralleling the road. I mean, walking 30 yards off the edge of the road in the privet, just feeding, not a care in the world. Nobody in the club is seeing that deer.
Yep.
Like, these deer got those guys patterned.
Yeah.
I'm
the one, like out of my dad and like how we all used to hunt. Like I'll go hang a stand off my back or take a climber in or whatever. But I've always noticed, like, a lot of times it's the stand that nobody's hunted in like 2 years and it's grown up, and it's like, take a pole saw with you. Like, that's the dang spot. And I want to start going more mobile this year, just because, like, yeah, I've got my lock on dialed in, but like, I can't help but think that deer skirting me at 100 yards. And so one evening I'm just going to go hang in a different spot and just see what happens.
Yeah. There's some guys we talked to, like me and Jacob are public land guys.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much all we've hunted for the last like 10 or so years. And I just now joined this club because it's like 5 minutes out my house, out my front door, and I got a 3-month-old. So like I got to take what I can get,
Yeah.
And we started interviewing some guys who are in hunting clubs who their entire strategy is based off that.
Yeah.
They're going to the stand that no one hunts, or they're looking at where people like to go, and they're looking at the wind that day, and they're like, I'm going to go get 300 yards downwind of, the whatever field that everybody always hunts.
Yep.
And they kill big bucks doing that.
Yep.
Like every year. They get, like, we know one guy who got kicked out of a hunting club because he bucked out 2 years in a row on the club. He killed 6 bucks off that club in 2 years.
And they kicked him out.
They kicked him out. Yeah. So I mean, like, you can be that successful doing it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that intrigues me about the hunting club thing, but it's staying mobile, and realizing that the deer pattern the people, just like you try to pattern the deer. It's like if you take a dog, they learn by association. If they're like, hey, every time we walk out in that food plot, one of us doesn't make it. Like, maybe let's not go out there in daylight anymore. Especially the bucks, man. Like the bucks, especially, they'll swing downwind of that. Another guy, he's like, I just hunt 40 yards downwind of these fields.
Yeah.
In those thick pines, that's where all the action is. They're all hanging in the woods back there where you can't see from that shooting house. So I don't know. You could go down a rabbit hole with that too.
Oh yeah.
I hardly even hunted the club last year, but this year I'm going to put a little bit more into it because I think I can do pretty good out there.
Yeah.
Like using that tactic.
Yeah.
And we got a big response from it because actually most of our audience hunts leases or hunting clubs.
Yep.
Most of them aren't public land guys.
Yep.
So we started doing episodes like that and people were like, yes, do more. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, we were just hammering down on the public land thing for like 3 years.
Yeah.
You know?
How many, what do you think your percentage of public to private land hunters in your audience is? Is it mostly public, you think?
We actually surveyed at one time. I think 70% hunt either private or public and private.
Yeah.
So like exclusive public is probably like sub 20% of our audience, like somewhere right in there. And, but our guests are like kind of flip that. A lot of our guests that we talk to are exclusive public guys.
Yeah.
Because we've had trouble finding like hunting club guys. Cause I don't know, a lot of our stuff, like our guest network comes from networking.
Yeah.
So it comes from like, hey, I met this guy. Who do you know?
Yeah.
I meet his buddy. Who do you know?
Yeah.
And you just get into like these webs of people, you know, and you network through them. And we just haven't made like that big inroad into like hunting club culture yet.
Yeah.
But we're trying to. Because, I mean, those guys, especially after being in my hunting club for 2 years now, is really not that different.
Yeah.
It's really not different from a WMA. I mean,
Yeah.
especially now, if you're in like a really nice club that manages for trophy deer, like that's going to be different.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's pretty freaking similar.
Yeah.
Like same terrain, same habitat, roughly the same amount of pressure most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's just maybe a little more predictable because now I'll go on a WMA and I think I'm being slick walking down this gorge and up the other side and, you know, going to as far back as I can get. And I get back there and there's like 2 other guys with saddles back there. I'm like, crap, like this hunting style is getting a little too popular, you know? But at the hunting club, like I never run into that. These guys are only hunting shooting houses.
Yeah.
And they are literally driving their 4-wheeler to the shooting house, parking it, climbing up and hunting, and then leaving with 5 minutes of shooting light left, getting back, firing that bad boy up and getting out of there. I'm like, okay, you know, and they're very, very predictable, which is why I'm excited this year. I'm like, okay, let's put some effort into this. Cause like now that I know how these guys hunt, maybe I can make a play off of that.
Yeah.
You know, like some of these guests that we've talked to have done.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to just like sit in the shooting house and let the buddy go on his 4-wheeler and just watch the deer pile into the clear cut after the 4-wheeler leaves.
Oh, I got a story about that. So that's actually that one time we had a whole theory about that. And our buddy Michael Pike, who used to be on the show a lot, he had a theory that, you know, how many times do you hear about some guy like dropping off his 10-year-old or 12-year-old or whatever, and he leaves and he's almost back to his stand and he hears a gunshot and the kid's shot a giant deer. Like that happens all the time. And we're like, why does that always happen? Well, we're like, maybe it happens because, or on the same thread, you go put a trail camera out and that first like 24 hours, you get a big buck on it and then like never again. Why does that happen? And we're like, maybe it's a curiosity thing. Maybe they heard you come in and you left and now they feel safe and they're going to come investigate and check it out because they're curious animals. So one time we had a spot that we all had some history with. We had videos of bucks working a scrape next to this pine thicket. It's a little bitty hard, like steep drainage that comes down off a road and there's pine thickets on both sides. And we get videos of bucks hitting that scrape and they go up in that pine thicket and they're in there for like 10 hours and they come back out. And so there's like usually some deer hanging out in there. Well, Michael and our buddy Clay walked into this spot to check that camera and the scrape had like just been worked. And I think Michael was like, oh, dude, I think that buck's like right in here. And come to find out that buck was laying like 80 yards up in the thicket, listening to him talk probably. And he had his gun with him. He's like, Clay, will you just like leave and like leave me in here and I'm going to get set up? And Clay's like, yeah, sure. So they found a little setup for Michael. He got ready and then Clay like made some noise, letting him know he was leaving, hit the gravel road at the top, crunch, 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 you know, walk down the gravel road. And it was probably like, I can't remember how long, but it wasn't long. And he heard something get up in the pine thicket and start walking around. He's like, okay, here we go. And it got up and came closer to the edge and then laid back down. And he sat there a little bit longer and eventually it came out. It was a big, I think it was a 9-point, huge, nice deer for the area. Killed it at like 20 yards.
Dude.
We're like, okay. And Michael, man, if you ever listen to Michael on the podcast, he's like a deer mad scientist. We're like, that was like the most Michael Pike thing ever.
Yeah.
Michael's the kind of guy, he'll get 2 sticks and hit them on the ground to sound like a deer walking. Like he'll be sitting on the ground hunting and he'll be like, you know, like that kind of stuff, making it sound like there's already deer, you know, milling around in there, making, you know, the other deer want to come out of the thicket.
Yeah.
I think there's something to that stuff.
Yeah.
But so he did that and killed a buck. So now we've always thought about like, hey, that's probably actually a decent tactic to try.
Yeah.
You know, go drop somebody off and leave.
Yeah.
And see what happens, you know?
It's wild, man. And I mean, you know, I've talked about it with buddies and like when we go hunt in Illinois in the Midwest, like there's so many people hunting. There's so many, a deer cannot go through his day without smelling people or encountering people. And it's broken up and up there too, you know, like the woodlots and stuff. But you have to think that like they've kind of got little tips and tricks how they can slide around and figure us out, because it's not like, you know, a deer can't escape up there anyway. And around here where we're at, like they can't escape. They're going to smell humans every day. They're going to encounter humans every day. We don't have 1,000 acres of pristine habitat, but like they've got ways of sliding around us. And you know, we used to do deer drives all the time. And, there was a group that would have a guy kind of holding back behind the drive.
Oh yeah.
And they've killed giants that way, where a big buck would slip around and he'd be literally looking back at the drivers that are walking away, and they'd lay him out.
My mentor that I mentioned earlier, Ben George, he's got, I should have a picture of him, but I don't. He's got like a giant 8-point that he killed in Alabama. I don't know. It's probably like 145-inch 8-point. Dang. And, like big mass, tall, huge deer. And he killed it. I think he was dog hunting. But same thing. He was hanging back and he caught that buck slipping back out the backside. And like, man, how often you hear about that? Like he's popping out the back, you know, he's not going tearing through there. And we've even had guys tell stories about like a big deer, like watching them sneak, you know, where he'll like, he'll see some people like off in the distance or whatever, and he'll just like stand there and watch them and let them go by, and then he'll like go about his business, or he'll watch them, and if they kind of start angling too much, he'll like get low and like go down this little drainage and just avoid them. And he's not like blowing out of there like a doe does. He's just sneaking out.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of cool stories about that, man. Like that's what they do. Like how often do they sit there and just look at you?
Yep.
And they're just like, yep, there's that guy again. Looks like he's going back to that spot he always goes to.
My uncle shot one that was crawling one time, crawling through the brush to slip out of a drive. And I'd have never believed that if I didn't see it happen. Like, yeah, he was crawling and just saw his rack, you know?
Yep. I've heard that too. Like I've heard a guy talk about a deer crawling behind a log, like trying to stay low back there and stay hidden. Benny one time, Ben George, he was squirrel hunting. This is only like 2 years ago. He was squirrel hunting in a place that we like to deer hunt called the Bowl. It's just a big thermal hub. And he was squirrel hunting back there, and I think he was sitting up against a tree or whatever, and out of the corner of his eye, he caught a buck slipping in there real quiet. He caught the buck. He was looking this way. He caught it in his peripheral vision, and the deer like saw him and like froze, and it was like looking at him like this, and he didn't move or anything. And that buck just like as quiet as he could, like backed up a little bit and turned around and snuck right back out. Yeah. Didn't blow out or anything. That deer's like, oh, there's a dude right there. And just snuck out. I'm like, that, to me, those are like the coolest stories ever. Cause it just makes me think about how many times this freaking giant buck has like watched me walk right by him, and I never knew he even existed.
I don't want to think about it. Make me feel bad about myself.
Probably make you sick if you actually knew.
Oh man, dude, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah, man, it's fun though. Like that, and that kind of goes back into the culture thing, like the deer drives and everything, the dog hunting. It's just, it's especially the dog hunting, like it's unique. It's uniquely Southern. The hunting club thing, it's just, it's its own thing. And so like we want to promote it. And like, you know, bow hunting isn't the only thing. You know, bow hunting 180-inch whitetails in Iowa is awesome, but it's not the only thing out there. Yep. You know, like even Jacob gives me crap about this, because Jacob would rather go to Iowa and shoot like a giant deer. But like, man, and this is 100% true, and Jacob would back me up on this, that I would do this. But like, if you offer me like 180-inch deer on like Mark Drury's farm in Iowa, or like 135 inch deer on my local WMA, I'm going with that 135
Yeah.
every day of the week, man. That's just me. That like, there's something about where we're at, the habitat, the nostalgia of it. Like, I don't know. That's what I want. You know, that's what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kill a deer like that one day. You know, like your giant, ridiculous, you know, Illinois deer over there.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not gonna give up on, you know, my Alabama stuff and like move to Iowa or something, which is what most people in the hunting industry do. You know, like most people, there's a reason that they all live in Iowa.
Oh, dude, know? It's nuts, man. And I feel like too, a lot of people want to hunt where they grew up, and that's why, honestly, like that's why Illinois is like a special place for me. Is going back and hunting with my dad and everything. But to your point, like it has been since we moved to Boone, it's rare for me to really get worked up over a buck. Like I love hunting the terrain, the scenery and all that kind of stuff. And when that deer came up last year, you can ask Zach, like I got into it, man. It's like, there was one time he was coming out because I could have killed him. It was Christmas Day. It got really cold and I could have shot him from the house with a rifle for like 2 hours, you know, but I didn't want to do it. I wanted to kill him with a bow. And there was one day I got a trail cam picture of him coming in the morning, and I was in my stand an hour and a half before first light waiting on him, you know, and he never did come in that day. But I've never done that for a North Carolina deer. But then when I saw that one, I was like, man, that's, you know, he's a 140 inch deer. Like, but man, to do it right here, and he was an old deer, it would have been so cool.
Oh, yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about, dude. That's what I get into. Yeah. I missed 140 inch deer in Alabama last year.
Yeah.
It was rough.
So what's the strategy going to be now that you've got a 3-month-old? How's that going to change?
They going with me.
Figured out as you go?
Oh yeah. Like I was talking about Arkansas and stuff. We're getting an Airbnb and they're coming.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah. So she works from home, so she can kind of like go wherever.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring them. And I don't know. We're going to play it by ear. Yeah. So her due date was April 3rd.
Okay.
And Alabama's turkey season starts March 25th. I'm like, ouch. Okay. Yep. Didn't time that one great. But Tiffany's over here looking at me. But hey, I got a solid week of hunting in, and I killed a turkey. Tiffany actually roosted turkeys with me like 3 days before she was born. Yeah. She's out there, I mean, like about to pop. And we roosted some turkeys, and I went back in the next day and killed one. Yeah. And then after that, you know, having a newborn at the house, like that was kind of a baptism by fire because it was turkey season. So I'm like, how much am I actually gonna be able to do? Yeah. And I got out a couple times, but that's where that hunting club came in handy. Yeah. Because it's 5 minutes out the door. So quick hunt here, quick hunt there. But we're gonna play it by ear, man.
We had our little girl Brooklyn. She was due December 10th. So I'm like, I've got my rut plan. I've got all my things planned, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go deer hunt, and then we're gonna come home and have a baby. It's gonna be fun. And I was on a conference call with Winchester on October 28th. I was getting all my work done, getting stuff lined up with them, and then I was going to go deer hunt. And Kim called me 3 times in a row, like while I was on the conference call. And I didn't want to switch over. I was like, guys, I gotta get off this call. I gotta take this. This is Kim, you know. Well, she went into labor early on October 28th. No she way. Went into labor. You want to talk about bad timing? October 28th is not great. That wasn't my thought at the time. Yeah. You know, I was like, okay, this is like a little over 6 weeks early. And Brooklyn just came early, man. But Boone does not have a big enough hospital to handle anything earlier than 5 weeks premature. So they sent us down to Winston to Wake Forest, and everything was fine. Like Brooklyn was 6.5 pounds when she was born. She just came early, man. They might have had her due date a little off too, but Brooklyn totally healthy and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, my rut was done. You know, I mean, I thought I had everything planned out. Oh yeah, dude, it was toast.
Wrecked the rut. Wrecked. Man. That's hilarious. Yeah, but she was born 1 day late, and I think she was born on a Tuesday, and I killed a turkey on Monday. Yeah, Sunday or Monday. Yeah. So I got that turkey. I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm like, dude, I hunted so hard that first week because I'm like, we're about to have this baby. We were getting after it. And then I killed that turkey. I was like, all right, I'm satisfied, you know. And it's my biggest turkey ever, too.
It gets easier when they get older, too. I mean, the newborn phase is just a lot, man. It's a lot of stuff.
Man, I'm already looking forward to her being able to like go with me. Like,
Yeah.
I can't wait, dude. I just sit around and think about it all the time. Like,
Yep.
when she can walk around and stuff, I can be taking her out in the woods. We can go flip over some rocks and look for bugs and stuff.
Yep.
It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
I cannot wait, for real.
I try to like make games and stuff with Rhett. I was like, all right, Rhett, we're going to walk this ridge and the first one to break a stick loses, so you're teaching him to like walk over and not break sticks and stuff like that.
Oh, that's
But
slick.
it's pretty cool,
I
man.
don't even remember that.
You got a lot of fun stuff ahead of you.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be awesome, man. She's fun. Even the newborn phase, like, it is so fun, dude.
Yep.
She starts smiling at you. Like, there's nothing better. There's really not.
The proudest moment as a father is like when we'll see a deer coming down the road. I'm like, hey guys, look at that deer. And I roll down the windows and both of them start going, meh, 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 and it's like, yes, I'm doing something right as a dad.
Oh, yeah. With me, I'm like, she's like making all her little baby coos and stuff. I'm like, hey, won't be too long. She'll be able to, rip out a good owl call.
Oh, yeah.
See if we can't get some locate calls going.
Oh, yeah. It'll be fun, man.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I appreciate you being on and telling a little bit about the Southern Outdoorsmen podcast and the early days. And
yeah, dude, I appreciate you having me up here. Your studio is awesome.
It's cool, man.
I'm quite jealous.
We got a good setup.
When we get our studio up and rolling, I'm gonna have to call you, get some advice on decoration and stuff. This place is like world class. I mean, seriously, this place is impressive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man.